Mike Espy joins the show to talk about playing receiver under Eli Manning, the 2001 Arkansas game, that magical 2003 season, the difference in camp. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. He's going to be around for the full show today, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast. I'm here with Mike Espy. Don't forget to subscribe to our socials, both here, TikTok, and Instagram. And, of course, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. We're going to get right into it. Mike, how you doing, bud?
But I'm doing great, man. It's good to be here. Good to be on here with you.
All right. Thank you very much for coming aboard. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I don't know if you heard the laundry list that I went through. But okay. Let's start out with fall camp. With camp going on, talk about your favorite fall camp memory playing football.
Oh, man. If I'm being honest, I don't know if there's like a favorite. There's very memorable in terms of the heat, being out there full pads. At the time when I was at Ole Miss had turf on the game field, and we would go out there and do our summer conditioning, and then we would have a lot of the practices on the turf. So I remember looking out at that heat index that was on the turf. A lot of times it would read over 3 digits. So cleats melting or feeling like they're melting. But at the same time, as I look back on it, man, they were great times, great memories. I remember one practice, I caught a slant, and we were on the game field. I caught a slant, and Patrick Willis was right by, like I caught it, he was right behind me. Now, we're on the game field, and we're making it like a game. So I sprinted. We were probably about on the 25 or 30 on our side. Man, I sprinted the entire length of the field, and he was trailing me step for step the entire length of the field. He didn't gain a step, but he was right there the whole way. And I remember that was a moment when I said to myself, man, that guy's gonna be special. And he is.
You know, just to transfer over to the new camp, I'm hearing a lot of people play and talking about Quinshon Judkins and Davison Igbinosun in a similar way that veterans talked way back then about Patrick. Are you hearing anything similar?
Man, I'm hearing a lot of great things about them, man. But not only them, I'm hearing a lot of good things about everybody. So I'm just really interested to see when we actually come out this season. Our schedule is seemingly not that strong coming out, but you can look at that one of two ways. You can look at that in a way of, man, we get ourselves together. We have a lot of opportunities to mess up, hit some bumps in the road, so that by the time we get to some solid SEC play, we will have ironed out all the kinks. Or you can look at it like the potential to look over somebody. So I'm just interested to see how Lane puts all the pieces together, and they come out this year.
Yeah, you had an interesting tweet a couple of days ago where you said that this wide receiver unit could be number 1 by the end of the year. Talk about what you mean by that.
Listen, obviously I'm a fan of wide receivers, and I would love to be in that wide receiver room. You got Jonathan Mingo, you got Malik Keith, you got Jalen Robinson, you got Trigg. He's a tight end, but he's going to get a lot of touches. You got Dennis Jackson, Braylon Brown. And you've got guys like Jeremiah Dillon, who I don't know if he's going to get a lot of burn, but at the same time, if you put him out there, he could pop the top off. I'm sure I'm missing some guys, but the point is they're a very talented group. They're top heavy, and they have some good guys on the back end. Top heavy, I mean, they have a lot of experience with Mingo, Jalen Robinson, and Malik Keith. They got a lot of experience with those three. So I'm just interested to see with this Lane Kiffin offense, what kind of numbers they're going to put up, because they're going to produce. They're going to produce. It's just, to me, it's just a matter of where do they fall in the lines of the tops in the country, because I know they're going to do well.
Now, for people that might be looking at this, can you explain the Malik Heath situation? Not necessarily getting the weeds, but it's weird going from Mississippi State to Ole Miss, right?
Yes, it is. I'm not the type to put out any bulletin board material or anything like that. I train a lot of Mississippi State guys, and those guys, I love them like they were my own. But I just think he wasn't happy. I think that he wasn't happy there with the situations, with the circumstances. He was looking for some fresh air, and when he was looking for some fresh air, what better place to go to play wide receiver than to Ole Miss? I mean, if you just look at it, and you look at it from right now, and if you go back in the recent history, you could go even beyond that. Ole Miss is synonymous for putting out really good receivers. So I do feel like, I will say this, if you look at the Mike Leach offense and you kind of just really dissected what receivers have come out of that offense and been in the NFL. I mean, right now at the top of my head, I can think Michael Crabtree. But beyond that, it gets kind of muddy for me. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, but I don't know. So I know that if you just look at that, then you just look at, okay, who would Ole Miss has come out? You could look to last year. You could look at Elijah from last year and beyond. So to me, I think it was a good decision. I think that, obviously that's pretty tough going to an in-state rival school, and I'm interested to see when we get to the Egg Bowl what that reaction is going to be like. But at the end of the day, Malik is a hard worker, and he's put a lot of work in the offseason, and I cannot wait to see him get the fruits of his labor.
All right, the 2022 team as a whole, how do you see it breaking down for this Ole Miss team?
Well, I see them doing very well. It's okay. It's all contingent. It's all contingent and hinging on what we do at the quarterback position. I'm not going to speculate as to who's going to start or what I've heard or whatever. But the point is, they need that quarterback situation to be right. Jackson Dart, obviously coming in from USC. I think a lot of people are talking about him taking the starting role. But then you look at Luke Altmaier and look at him coming into the bowl game last year and of all the upside that he has. So, from my opinion, if I'm a coach, just kind of looking at, do I want all the upside, or do I want to put this guy in position who I had transferred here into the role? If it was me, not if it was me, my thought process says we'll see both of them this year, obviously. I think that, I'm just speculating here, I think that Jackson will start. Then I think down the line, Luke will take the reins, and Ole Miss offense will be very productive with both.
Yeah, it's my opinion on this quarterback competition. The more that I think about it, it's like Ole Miss needs an A.J. McCarron type quarterback. Somebody that could just carry the water and do what needs to be done, because there's weapons all over the field. You don't need the, honestly, Matt Corral type guy that's going to go out and put everything on his shoulders. So maybe Luke Altmaier has a path here.
Without a doubt. But I mean, I'll say Jackson Dart does too, right? It's just kind of like when they get the baton, who's going to take it and who's going to run with it. And with the two quarterback situation, you know how it works. If you get in the game and you're hot, you kind of go with the hot hand. So it's just like, who's going to go with the hot hand first? I like both of them. I like both these quarterbacks, and like you said, he's got weapons literally in the backfield, out wide, tight end. I don't think, if I'm just being honest, I don't think as an offense, Ole Miss has been this complete in terms of their skill players, from running back to receiver to tight end, just as a whole, and as deep. It hasn't been that way in a long time.
Yeah, it really hasn't. We're going to take a short break and hear from BetOnline.net. After that, we're going to talk about Mike Espy's playing career, and I've got some questions about the three-headed monsters and Eli and all that stuff. But anyway, BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events on the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and golf. I'm assuming it just says golf because now of that LIV thing. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Do not forget to rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to say. You can say Steve is a narcissist, but he has really good guests. You can say anything like that. Just do that, and it will help others find the podcast in the future. Chris Collins could not make it today. The technology bugs kind of appeared again. We couldn't quite get him. But we have Mike Espy at ESPN3 all day on Twitter. Whether you know it or not, Mike is running a training facility in Madison, and he works with 7-on-7 teams, and he provides exposure to high school athletes that, honestly, kids in my generation did not have. Talk a little bit about that, Mike.
Yeah, man. So, when I'm training kids, from little kids up to college professional athletes of all ages, all ranges. But at the end of the day, I think Mississippi is obviously one of the more under-recruited states. They're one of the more underexposed states in terms of the talent. And if you just really go up to the top, per capita, we have the most NFL players in the league per capita. So I think that these kids need an opportunity to shine just like a kid from anywhere else has the opportunity to shine. And so we're here just trying to facilitate that, to make that happen on the exposure side, but not only that, to help them be ready for that exposure when it comes time for it.
Yeah, it's really cool what you're doing. And I talked to Shea Hodds a while back, and he gushed about it as well. If you look at Ole Miss's roster right now, there's so many players that you've had your hands on. If you look at Mississippi State's roster, the same thing. You guys are doing a phenomenal job.
Appreciate it. You know, we're just trying to give back to what we didn't have growing up. I know when I was coming up, man, my dad took me to Fast Camp in Boca Raton, Florida, to get the type of things that we're doing here. And when I got back to Mississippi, I felt like I was a different player. I was a different athlete. I had been exposed to things I wouldn't have otherwise. And sometimes it's just that exposure and just seeing something different, seeing something beyond yourself, where you are, can be all the difference in the world, or it could give a kid an idea, man, I could do this. I could be this type of player. I was in this state and I saw this kid and I'm better than him. Now it's, hey, I'm in Mississippi. I know what that kid looks like. I know what they're doing over there, and I know what I'm doing. And so when it comes time to the recruiting and all that, and Coach Lane is going to this state or that state to see the kid, I want him to be able to notice me because I'm ready.
Yeah, that's really cool. And in line with that, you mentioned somebody in the first segment, Jeremiah Dillon. Tell Ole Miss fans what they can expect from Jeremiah Dillon.
Jeremiah Dillon is a receiver who has so much upside. He's tall, he's rangy, and listen, he can flat out run. He was teammates with another guy trained in Tylertown, Jordan Anthony, who is playing for Kentucky now, but he went to win 100 at Adidas, and he's one of the top kids in the country. But Jeremiah Dillon was right there with him. Except Jeremiah Dillon, he's 6'2", tall, rangy. He could pop the top off of any defense, and he can go up and get the ball. He did a lot of improvements on his game his senior year. As I would imagine, he'll make more improvements this year, more improvements the next year. I look for him to do some special things up there.
I'm pretty fired up about him. Looking at his tape, it almost reminds me of the smoothness of those guys like Peter Warrick back in the 90s.
Yeah. I would that's good. Right now he doesn't have the cuts like Peter Warrick.
Oh, no. He's not a phone booth guy.
He doesn't have the cuts like Peter Warrick, but yeah, he's very smooth. Mm-hmm. And the thing about him is that a lot of people don't know, he has a lot more wiggle than you would think, right? No, he's not a phone booth guy, but the kid is strong, right? The kid is strong. He can move. He's got wiggle. I just can't wait to see his game accelerate and see where he'll be in a year's time.
All right. Let's move back to your playing career. Now, as you know, Bill Flowers comes on my show quite frequently, and I asked him way back to rank the 2003 receiving corps based on speed. What would your ranking be based on speed? And I'll tell you what his afterwards.
So look, man, we got to go with facts, and that's I go on facts. If we're just going speed, my number one be Tay Biddle. For sure. Tay Biddle was it when he ran track, right? He ran track at Ole Miss. And second, I would say myself. I ran track for 1 week at Ole Miss. And that was during the springtime. Coach Cut didn't want me running track. They wanted me out doing stuff in the spring. And then I would say Chris Collins. You know, Chris is interesting. You know, he came out of high school. He broke the record in the 200-meter dash. I mean, that's what a lot of folks don't know. But then he got up to college. He put a little bit more weight on, but he was still smooth. I bet you cannot find one clip of him catching the ball with a guy behind him and that guy catching him. You probably cannot find one. So I would say Tay Biddle. I would say myself. I would say Chris Collins. Then I would say Bill Flowers. And then after that, you know, I would say it's pretty much a toss-up between Kerry Johnson. You know what? I'm going to actually go with Trey Freifogel. Trey Freifogel was a sleeper. I don't know if he was on that 2003 team. It might have been 2002. But, yeah, that's where I would go. I'm pretty sure Bill put himself ahead of me. but before you say that, so Bill, you know, I'm not going to go there. I got facts. That's all I'm going to say.
Anyway, Bill said number one was Tay. That was obviously everybody goes straight to Tay as far as speed. Sure. Then he put himself, then he put you, then he put Chris Collins, then he put Kerry Johnson.
Hey, that's fine. You know, I think that you know, as we get older, you know, the and this is myself included, right? Mm-hmm. I think as we get older, stories of ourselves, the visions of ourselves get shifted one way or the other. Listen, Bill was a phenomenal receiver. A phenomenal athlete. I know coming from Alabama, he was a track guy as well. So, yes, Bill was very fast. He was very smooth. He was very fluid. I enjoyed Bill's game. You know, but if we look on that 2003 season, and if you look at most of the games, the first play of the game was, to me, if you look at it, and it was something deep. We were there during the same era. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, what was it like being a receiver in an Eli Manning team?
You know, as I got out of the game, that's when I really had more time to reflect on it. You know, when you're playing, or at least when you're as young as I was with him, obviously I was 2 years younger than him, you appreciate it in the moment, but you don't understand the gravity of the type of player, the type of quarterback he was. But when I go reflect, man, he was calm under pressure. He was always going to put you in the right situation. But I'll even go beyond that. He believed in you, or at least he made you feel like he believed in you. And as a teammate, as a wide receiver, man, you need that in your quarterback. You know, there might have been a practice where I ran a wrong route. Yes, there was a game where I dropped the ball. Eli would always come up to me and be like, "Hey, man, I got you. Like, I'm coming back to you." And, like, I tell all my young quarterbacks today, when I look at them and I see their body language, like, man, go talk to him. Go tell him you got him. Because we need that. We're humans, right? Mm-hmm. When you drop a ball, it's easy to let that – you drop one, it's like, oh, Lord, right? Here comes another one. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but having a quarterback like Eli just instill that belief. You trust him. He's going to always put you in the right situation. And then he threw his balls came with such touch. And they weren't too hard. They weren't too soft. So as I had quarterbacks post Eli, and then I was in the league, I would actually simulate the way you catch the ball is like how I caught it from Jason Campbell. Except it was a little bit more softer with a little bit more touch.
Okay. Real quick, before we take the next break, what's an atmosphere that you played in that you remember that really stands out?
Every year LSU, every LSU game. I remember my freshman year, we went to LSU. And when we went there, the bus pulled up, and then the bus starts rocking from side to side. And we're all like, what's going on? It was the fans. It was the LSU fans were rocking our bus from side to side. And I'm going to tell you what, if you really want to fire up a team, if you really want to get that blood flowing and that energy going, man, do something like that. And it's just that hostile energy, that hostile environment. And you're coming in and it's nothing. As soon as you make a big play, or as soon as you do something like that, to hear the crowd go quiet, it's one of the best feelings in the world. So I would say LSU. I also would say LSU at home, that 2003 year.
Oh, yeah, that was special.
I don't know where it stands in the record, but it's probably one of the more attended games. And then, honestly, I would say like Auburn. When we went to Auburn that year, it was so loud. Like, it's to me, it's the way the stadiums are built. I feel like Auburn goes more straight up. LSU goes out more like that. And so it's almost like the fans are closer. And it was loud, but by far, the best atmosphere, the most enjoyable atmosphere was at LSU and then at home against LSU.
Okay. What's it like to play in Mississippi State with those cowbells going?
Oh, man, it's one of the most annoying things, like, in the world, honestly. There can be times they can get so loud it's hard to hear. But to me, the effect of the cowbells, it wasn't so much that it was just loud and you couldn't hear. It was just more like it was just annoying, right? Because they do the cowbells at any and everything. So let's just say that I wasn't a fan of them. Naturally.
Okay. Yeah, let's see, I've been down to Starkville. Let's see, I've got through, like, we crossed over. I was there with when Chris Johnson was the video guy, so you would have been there at that point, and early Biff. And so we went down to Starkville. I guess that would have been 2004 maybe. And they got all in. I think they won that game. They were really excited and everything. And then like Tuesday of the following week, I still heard that buzzing.
Yeah. It's a unique sound.
Yeah. Because it really just sounds, if anybody doesn't know what the cowbells sound like, it sounds like bees. When everybody starts doing it, and it just gets so annoying. It's almost like tinnitus.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. It's like it's this annoying sound that stays in your head, and and at the end of the day, I look back and I think like, why? And you know what? Somebody told me I trained Fred Brown, who was a wide receiver at Mississippi State, and somehow we got on the subject of the cowbells, and he said that. Now I didn't know this, but he said that the way the cowbell thing works is you're supposed to be gifted a cowbell. Okay? So if you go to the store and buy your own cowbell, that's like not the tradition. You're supposed to be gifted the cowbell. And I said to him, well, all these people are not being gifted cowbells. They're going out and buying them. And then we laughed about it. So that was just an interesting thing that I didn't know.
Yeah. All right. We're going to come back and talk about 2004. And the three-headed monster right after this. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell for updates whenever we put a new video up, which happens quite frequently. Up right now is a breakdown of Jackson Dart, is a breakdown of Luke Altmaier. A high school coach came in and talked about those players. If you want to spend 10 minutes watching that, I would appreciate it. It's on the page now. But subscribe to that, hit the bell, and of course, upvote the video itself. I'm here with Mike Espy. Chris Collins couldn't make it. Technology got us today. We've talked about fall camp in the first segment. We talked about really 2003. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the three-headed monsters. Because, Mike, you've seen the quarterback competition go both ways. You saw the ascendancy of Eli Manning, and then you saw in 2004 when it just didn't work. And it's probably the reason I get scared whenever people say both players are going to play. Because if that goes on too far, it can be problematic. Talk about that 2004 season.
2004 season, man, to to say the least. It was rough. It was rough. I feel like obviously Coach Cut, phenomenal coach. But Michael Spurlock is an amazing athlete. He's an amazing athlete. Little side note, we played them in high school, and I went to Madison Central. We played Indianola Gentry. We were 15-0. But we played Spurlock that year. We had to score 75 points on him because we didn't know what he was gonna do, and we won 75-60 something. But his receivers dropped a lot of balls he was putting right in their chest. Anyway, it was tough, man. You had Spurlock, you had Ethan Flatt, and you had Robert Lane. And if I'm being honest, I would have loved to see Spurlock play in a different style of offense. I feel like that there was some Eli woes, meaning that Spurlock was in there playing in the same system that Eli Manning was playing under, and they're just two different quarterbacks. They do two different type of quarterbacks. They have different skill sets, and so he wasn't able to shine or play at the best of his ability because he wasn't set up for success. He just wasn't. And I think that's what I take from that season the most, because I know how special of a quarterback he is. I know in practice, if you would have watched us practice, you would have thought we were going to put up amazing numbers in the game, but then we get in the game and it just didn't translate. But that's the reason, man. It was tough. It was tough doing that. Like I didn't like the different quarterback systems. I wanted to go in with my man, my Spurlock. I wanted to go in with him and him be hot. But he just wasn't set up for success. Now, when they started to do different things like moving him out the pocket, which didn't happen often, moving him out the pocket, getting some QB draws, things like that, just to kind of get him rolling, we had a little bit of success. But I just think that was I wish that were different.
All right. Describe a little bit the differences between, if I'm not mistaken, you were there for the first year of Coach O. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the differences between? Explain to people the differences between Cut and Orgeron.
Oh man, Cut was a little bit more laid back, but when I say laid back, I don't mean in a way of he wasn't stern or anything like that, because he was one of the most stern coaches, and he didn't take anything. But he just had a different approach to it. He would kind of talk to you, and he wanted to groom men. That was his big thing. He wanted to win games, but he wanted to groom men. He wanted us to be good men on and off the field. I know that in the Cotton Bowl, I caught a touchdown pass, and I got up, hit my chest, kind of celebrating, and Cut didn't like that. I went on the sideline, and he was like, "Don't do that." But like the real reason why I did that, it wasn't more of a celebratory thing. I did that because I was emotional, because the first drive of the game, I ran a dig. Eli hit me on the money and I dropped it. Okay. And then Eli came back to me, said, "I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you." And then so when he did that, the ball came to me. I caught it. I was emotional because I was like, man, it's here. Like I was thinking about the pass before. So that's where I was. But anyway, Cut shut me down real fast. But Orgeron, man, listen. Orgeron was in your face. He was a player's coach at the same time. I feel like he had that intimidation thing that he tried to do to you. Right? Cut's approach was, let me talk to you like a man. And listen, there are two different approaches, and I'm not saying either one of them is wrong. But Cut would try to talk to you like a man, try to give you the what's going on and the rationale of why that's happening. Orgeron was just like, half the time I don't know what he said, but he was more like, he was just yelling in your face and trying to get you right. They were both different approaches, but to see where Orgeron, how he grew as a coach, is nothing short of amazing, right? To see the coach at LSU won a national championship, that was a different coach than the one that his first year at Ole Miss. So it's great to see the growth.
Yeah, okay. And before we get out of here, give the fans that are watching this give them one thing that they can look at as a sign that this team is going to be good.
Okay, so I mean, so I can think of. I mean, there are a lot of signs, but
Yeah.
man, this team. There are a lot of games in the beginning of the season where, as you would look at them, as a fan, you would say, "Man, this is an easy win." But at the same time, realistically speaking, there's never an easy win, because at the end of the day, you have to prepare and you have to go out and execute. When you see this team executing, we're going to come out. Everything's just not going to be perfect when we come out game 1, game 2, and even game 3. But as you watch this team execute, the offense just get better. The defense just get better. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who we play. When you see them firing on all cylinders, doing the little things right, then that's a good team.
All right. Get more on the SEC by making Locked On SEC your second listen every day. Host Chris Gordy and the local experts, that's me, of Locked On, take you across the SEC in 30 minutes or less. Make Locked On SEC your second listen, Locked On SEC. Mike Espy joining us today. Thank you very much for spending the time with us today, and I hope all goes well, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.